Leave it to Aka Akasaka to make you feel sympathetic to pretty much any role in the entertainment industry. This time around, yes, the unsung heroes, the most thankless job in the universe, scriptwriters. Yes, scriptwriters for adaptations. The ones that get beat up if it doesn't do well, and the ones that get no attention if it does well. I like how they put it in this episode where he's literally saying, if you do a really good job, everybody thinks that the original creator is what made it great. And if you do a terrible job, everybody thinks that you're as bad as a war criminal. Which, yes, is totally true. It literally happens every single time. If a show is really incredible, what do? You immediately go straight to the original source material. Which, technically, if you think about it, that should happen because the scriptwriter would have nothing to work with if the original work wasn't there. It's just in a weird realm where you just don't really know exactly who to really give credit to when technically all they're doing is just changing it a little bit in order for it to flow in a different medium. It's just a really uncomfortable place to be. But yes, I kind of agree with the concept here is that, like, who the hell wants to do this? Like, it's a hellish job. But at the same time, it's a necessary job. So it's a really cool episode 13 of Oshinoko. I really admit, again, the beginning of this episode was just blah. It was really them going back to what they should have adapted at the beginning of the first episode, but for some reason they did that stupid stage play intro. They should have done the whole scene with Melt and everything back there, but that for some reason they skipped it here and they brought it to the beginning of this episode. So it really felt like the beginning of this episode was a waste because it was introducing a bunch of characters we've already established at this point with the first episode. So I hope they're kind of done with all this moving things around with the adaptation. Like the whole scene with Abiko was supposed to be in the first episode too, so it's like, stop moving things. It feels disjointed. Now the Abiko thing being moved wasn't a big deal, but still I'm glad they covered the part with Melt because again, I think that is a crucial part to his story. I don't know how significant he's going to be in the future, but at least I think what makes it so great is showing that he made a failure here, but it also does highlight how Kana sort of acts differently with this stage play versus the role that she had with the previous job. With the previous job, yes, she was having to lower herself and she was being quiet in order not to cause problems. But now she's able to talk however she wants. Like, she's like, yeah, this is the real me. Welcome to the real me, which it kind of frustrates him because he's like, I wish you were like this back then because then you would have told me that I was doing a terrible job. But then he stops himself and says, no, that's just an excuse. I'm just making an excuse. I like the fact that he's acknowledging and owning up for his own actions. He's acknowledging at this point, I messed up back there. I spent the last 9 months working my butt off. And now I want you to tell me if I screw up. Please tell me if I mess up again because I want to do better now. I feel that I'm doing better now, but I want you to tell me the truth this time. So it's really cool. Again, he's not blaming Kana. He almost does. He's not blaming Kana, but he is acknowledging his own failures and that he's trying to get better. So really cool growth for him. And again, it was something that they were already pretty much hinting at with the first episode. But no, obviously the juicy bit of this episode, and like I've always said before, why I love covering this show is because I love the insights in the entertainment industry that Aka Akasaka does. And yes, this time around, getting into scriptwriters. Yes, well, more the script writers versus the original creators, which is something that, again, they got into with Kochicho Sensei with her adaptation of that romance series in the first season, but sort of showing that disconnect that happens in communication. Like she says at the very beginning, yes, there's a lot of people at play when it comes to an adaptation. With a manga, yes, you can make it yourself if you're good enough. Just draw the whole thing yourself, do all the writing yourself, everything. But in this situation, when you take that one work right there and you're turning it into, say, a stage play, suddenly a ton of people are involved. And I love the example that she gives. It's telephone tag. The whole process starts with the producers and everybody talking it over. They make a draft. They give it to the original mangaka or the original creator. And she even admits, Abiko, she probably was furious. And because she kind of acts on feelings rather than logic, her criticisms were probably really harsh. And what happens is that goes to her editor, and the editor gives it to their team, and that person was probably like, yeah, we can't send these comments to our client. It's probably going to cause problems between our two companies. So I'm gonna soften this a bit. And then it goes over to this guy, and I think it was the producer of the actual stage play, and he's going, this person doesn't know how plays work. I'm gonna tweak it like this. And then it goes to this person that's gonna go talk to the manager of the scriptwriter, and she's like, yeah, they want more emotion here. And that's all he gets. And that's the sad reality with this whole situation is that Abiko basically chewed him out. You do not understand my story. You say that you read it. If this is what you wrote, then you don't understand the story. And the sad reality is that he probably really tried to grasp that, but with this phone tag that's happening, he's getting the wrong signals. Now, I would argue it shouldn't have gotten that bad that she'd want changes, but again, he's having to create a stage play. He's not creating a manga. He's got to create a stage play where you're going to have a lot of people moving on a stage, communicating to each other in real time, rather than panels that pace itself. But still, he lacked that feel that she wanted. So he's still technically at fault because he could not grasp what she was doing. But he's not at fault for the failures of the corrections. And that's where I think it's kind of sad. And I'm hoping there's a redemption point for the scriptwriter. My thought was at the end of the episode, when he was kind of struggling over the fact that he failed, and he was thinking about how he really wanted to do this. He's been reading it since chapter 1. He actually put aside a whole bunch of other stuff. He literally opened up his schedule just so that he can adapt this. That's how much it seemed like he had passion for it. But he failed to grasp that. So I thought what was going to happen is that he was going to go, okay, I still have time, and just rewrite the whole thing and then present it to Abiko before she even gets a chance to write it out. Because right now, Abiko has to write it out and they have to approve it. So he still has time. So I'm wondering what's going to happen is he's going to get in there and go, please read this real quick. If it doesn't work, then continue. But please look at this one more time. And then she's going to look at it and go, this is what I wanted. I want to tweak this or this, but this is what I wanted. Thank you. We're going to use this. That's what I think is going to happen because he's got plenty of time to work with. And again, I think that's mostly because he's not fully at fault because what he was getting was this phone tag of information saying, adjust this, ramp up this, do this. And it had nothing to do with what Abiko was saying. I would probably, if that was just an example or if it was actually true, I'd more blame the producer because the producer was like, she doesn't know what she's talking about. Just change this. It's like, I think he was probably the one that really filtered that communication the most. Either way, it's super heartbreaking. And again, I like that whole discussion that happens after Abiko and them were kind of discussing things. Is Aqua's like, are you really going to let this happen? They're going to kick you out. He's like, I understand. We're like this is like the most hellish job because whether we do good or bad, it's never us. If we do good, again, the creators get credit. And if we do bad, then everybody hates the scriptwriter. It's not the fault of the original creator. Like, no matter what we do, we're doomed. But yeah, with that said, with my empathizing with the scriptwriter, which is obviously what Akasaka wanted to have happen here, is that you empathize with what they're doing. That's a thankless job. I do understand Abiko's frustration here again, because she was expressing what was wrong. And I think the big problem here, the big fault here, was that she kept telling them, revise this, revise this, revise this. And at some point she was told, just go check it out and you'll love it. That's where she stopped. She trusted them that they made the correct choice here. They basically expressed to her, we know what we're doing, don't worry about it. When you see it, you'll like it. You don't need to do more revisions. It's okay. And then when she finally went there, she's seen, no, this is not what I want. Now again, take into account what they shown was happening with the phone tag with the scriptwriter. Yes, her reaction to him was a bit too harsh. But again, I guess that goes to the whole idea of what they're kind of pointing out here, which I do disagree with Aqua. Aqua's like, man, she's very childish. Because yes, she basically full dumps on the scriptwriter. You read it, and this is what you wrote. This character isn't like this. You changed her, like, badly. And then they go into the side room. They kind of usher her over there, and she's literally like, I don't want him involved anymore. If you want to continue doing this, I will pull my approval unless you let me do it. And they're like, well, there's a contract. I don't care. I'll take the fine. No, the company has to pay it. No, I'll pay it. And yes, you can keep paying the scriptwriter, but he's not to touch this anymore. And again, Aqua says she's acting childish. I don't agree with that. I do not agree with that. I think could she tone it down a little bit? Could she be more professional? Yeah, but I don't think that would have changed anything. The problem that typically happens in situations like this, if she were to come in there and be very professional and very calm, I don't like this. This needs to change. I'm going to take it over. They'd probably keep saying, no, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. She would probably have to raise her voice and push back with that emotion. Otherwise, things wouldn't change. The only reason they caved in is because she was furious and she wasn't going to back down. Yes, she probably should tone down the voice a little bit. She probably should have had a little bit less emotion in her voice. But I feel like everything was warranted. I think at this point, with her being told, don't worry about it, just come look at it, and then basically pushing to the deadline before they finally show her anything, that's their fault. that is all on them. That has nothing to do with her. The communication, yes, you can partly blame her editor and her team, but this is the blame of that team and their team, not really her, because she wasn't involved besides seeing the stuff and expressing very clear, not very clearly, she was very emotional, that she doesn't like it. All the way to the point where they said, just come look at it. Well, we're going to stop the revisions, just come look at it. And thus technically approving it on her behalf before it was technically approved. So no, I don't find her to be childish. I find her to be very upset about them doing wrong with her vision. It's super crazy. And again, this is technically retreading the same story as what happened with the previous whole thing with Kichishoji. But at the same time, it's giving it a lot more of a microscope. So I do like it. Even though we are retreading grounds that we did before, now it's like a microscope is on it. And you're really seeing how it actually functions and where it kind of screws up. And it's really in that communication with technically the two people that are most important with this whole situation that doesn't technically get seen by most people. It's super cool stuff. Again, this is the stuff that I eat up with this franchise. I eat it up. Anything that I missed? Did I miss anything going through all that? I feel like I kind of blitzed through this whole thing and I didn't really go by scene like I typically do. Yes, we finally got the 2 toothbrush scene. I seen that in the PV and I was like, dang, Monogatari, eat your heart out. Yeah, Abiko being this kind of goofball that feels like if you brush with 2 toothbrush, you'll do twice as fast, so you don't have to wait for me. We got the apology with the producer, which I thought that was kind of really good because we had the whole scene where Akko was asking the scriptwriter if he was going to let this happen. And again, the scriptwriter kind of goes into details about how, again, it's a hellish work. We're very it's a job where people either hate you or they just ignore that you exist. And to have like right after that, have the producer actually apologize to the scriptwriter and say, hey, look, I think what you did was great. I think you did a good job. I'm sorry I can't remove you from the credits because it's already written, it's already produced. We already have it in advertisements and posters. And he's like, yeah, that's fine. I'll allow that to happen. It is good that the scriptwriter's like, look, I don't want my name on that because it's no longer mine. It's hers. And I don't want to take credit for what she did. But again, I do think it's kind of nice to see that the producer was like, no, what you did was great. I acknowledge you. Which again, dude's at fault. The producer guy technically I think is probably the biggest fault here because it seemed like he was the one that kind of changed that message a little bit too much there, if again that example was true. But still, it's kind of nice to kind of say, hey, look, I think you did good, despite all this kind of very heavy criticism that he just took. Again, the producer's technically acknowledging him, whereas again, he just said that nobody acknowledges us. But again, I think because they went out of their way to mention the credits and how he wanted his name taken off of it, again, I think that's a sign that what's going to happen is cutscenes eventually, maybe in the next episode, I think he's going to show up with a new script, and I think Abiko's going to accept it. Again, she might have a tweak here or there, but I think she's going to accept it this time. And I wonder, and this is partly what my whole predictions were in the first episode, which seems to be complete crap. My predictions in the first episode, if people had missed it, was that I was thinking that Abiko was going to come here to re-add the female lead that they pretty much removed from the original work over time. I thought that she came there specifically because she wanted that character re-added to the story. That maybe the publishers or somebody were at fault for having that character removed. The one that Akane is playing as. And maybe possibly the scriptwriter is going to have that character suddenly become a central focus in this new script that he gives her, and that will be the sign that he understood what she wanted as well, but unfortunately she had to, for her editors and publishers, to remove. He'll re-add the character that she technically likes the most. And I think that might have been the character that she was pointing out in the script that sounds idiotic. This character is super wise, and you made her sound like an idiot. I wonder if that was that character, and the scriptwriter is going to re-add it and make her dominant, and that's going to be the thing that shows Abiko that he really truly understood what she actually wanted, despite it not actually being in the manga that she created, again, technically being forced to adjust it by her publisher. That would be super cool. That would get a standing ovation from me. But that's my thoughts on the episode. Sadly, an episode with no Ruby. I hope we can get back to Ruby eventually. 0 Ruby in an episode does technically make me sad. But I don't know, maybe eventually we'll get a Ruby arc. Maybe we'll get back into the idol stuff. But for now, I'm still eating up this industry stuff. This is the stuff I've always just eaten up. So can't wait for more. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, if you did, make sure that like button down below, comment, let me know what's the episode. Additionally, if you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe before you leave so you can get all my content. I do news reviews, first impressions, top list. If it's anime, it's pretty much here. Additionally, I'm doing first impressions of all the shows of the season, so definitely stay tuned. If you like this content and you want to support the channel more, I have Patreon link, tips link, so thanks for membership button below. Greatly appreciate what it does. You all take care.